A stream happening before the hour of 10 p.m. CST. I apologize for that, by the way, guys. It's just been so ridiculously hot that there's not really much choice in the matter when it comes to my ability to pick a different time, you know? Like, I always want to do more content for you guys. That's always the idea. But with how hot it's been lately, it's just kind of hard. It's just kind of hard because it's basically impossible to sit out here between the hours of like 10 a.m. and 4 p.m. because it's just absurd hot. Absurdly hot. We're talking 90 degrees and 95% humidity. Like, yeah, if you gotta work in that kind of condition, like you can work outside if you have to. You can survive being outside. It's not like you literally die, but it's super uncomfortable to sit outside and try to hang out outside when that kind of thing is going on, when that sort of weather is the norm. So, I don't know. I might have to adjust my streaming schedule, maybe. Either that or I'll have to start doing my morning streams inside, and I would just rather not. Like, I like being out here. I like being out away from all the distractions and away from also all the people I might be annoying with my fucking bullshit, you know? Not everybody that lives in my house necessarily agrees with all of my fucking politics, and I would say that I'm the only person in my household that's as interested in global events and geopolitics and American politics, things like that, as I am, you know? Like, there are other people who've got like a passing interest in it in the house, but I'm the only obsessive when it comes to my household. So doing them out here is nice. Doing them out here when the weather is good, it's really nice to do them out here because nobody can distract me and I can't distract anybody else or make their time any worse or anything like that. By the way, I've got the cutest little homemade like bra / crop top on under this thing. It is kind of warm though. What are you talking about again? Literally nothing yet. You've come at the perfect time, my friend, because we don't have a topic yet. Right now I'm just watching one of our guineas kind of explore the property and walk around looking for food. She's sitting some eggs right now. What? Why?
I think she was getting birth earlier.
Are you sure? Because
she was laying down. She laid down, was breathing heavily, and opened her legs like she was giving birth.
Well, I don't really have anywhere else I can go.
I don't think she did yet, but I think she's getting ready.
Maybe.
Because your dad said that when they start pulling their fur like that, that means they're getting ready for birth.
I've also heard sometimes, though, that rabbits will sometimes pull fur when it's too hot, but them being a mated pair, it's not unusual to think that she could be bred for sure. She may well be.
Just seemed like she was in labor earlier by the way she was breathing.
Like I said, she may have been.
What's in there?
A J.
Is it still not charged?
It should be. Let me see. No. You just needed to click it multiple times. So you're a gezer?
What?
What the fuck? Somebody called me a gezer. I don't know what a gezer is supposed to be. I don't know what a gezer does. But that's what somebody just called me. A man is a gezer, so you're calling me a man. Wonderful. So you're a gezer that's now a bird. Fair play, you do you. Not my cup of tea. But as long as you're not harming anyone or yourself, I don't see the problem. You know what the problem was? Marketplace builds. The problem was that I didn't read the rest of your comment, and so it did not occur to me that you might be British. Because now that I've read the whole comment, I'm like, oh, okay. So it's somebody from probably the south of England, actually trying to be polite. So I forgive you for any misunderstanding that may have occurred, and I hope that you do the same for me. But yes, I'm a geezer that's now a bird. Ha! You hear that, babe?
Yeah.
I'm a bird now. I guess they could be Australian too, though. I think the Aussies call women birds. I meant like I'm learning what is what. I'm trying to be new to all this. Well, yeah, I mean, the beautiful thing about trans people being more and more accepted every year is that there's all kinds of people who are well-meaning but ignorant on the topic. And I mean ignorant in the traditional sense, like you just don't know. You know, like about being ignorant, right? Willful ignorance is one thing. Like when somebody does try to show somebody the right way and they still want to like proceed headlong towards the wrong way, that's bad because at that point you're choosing to do things wrong. At that point you're choosing to look at things the wrong way. But when it comes to somebody that just literally doesn't know, the best thing you can do for that person is to help them out. Hi Silas, quit all that fucking coughing breath.
What?
That's what Casey says.
You know what? Shut up.
Casey knows your name now.
Casey, very nicely, just go lovingly fuck yourself.
They mean it well.
I said lovingly go fuck yourself.
Yeah. So which one are you just asking? Well, if I do like this, wait, hold on. If I do like this, will that give any indication? No, I'm just kidding. Somebody asked, do I work? Right now, I don't. I don't know. I guess, okay, yes. Because technically, working as a homemaker and doing things around the house, if you're getting up every day, you're making sure the dishes are done, and the fucking floors are swept or whatever, if you're doing the domestic tasks of your household, I think you are actually working. But also, I do make income from these streams, not necessarily just from doing them, but people will occasionally send super chats, people will occasionally leave super thanks and things in the comments and stuff like that, and we have memberships open, so this would be at least considered part-time self-employment at the very least. But as far as like a traditional 9 to 5, no, I do not have a traditional 9 to 5 at this point in my life.
That's okay. You know, one thing I do to insult guys who said that, wild unknown, I say my clitoris is longer than your dick, so it's alright. Mine isn't long enough either.
Owned. Big owned. Phoebe plus Hong Kong equals friends. Yes, Hong Kong, you are always welcome in here. You know that. So you're a YouTube streamer? I mean, a very, very, very D-list, unnotable YouTube streamer, I guess, right now. That's the only thing I do for actual like money income right now. But I wouldn't say I wouldn't say I make nearly enough off of these yet to be considered like fully employed by them, you know? If the US Census Bureau was categorizing me, the US Census Bureau would consider me underemployed. So
Oh, you're Casey. I'm a fucking dumb bitch. What the hell? Whatever. Listen,
careful.
I'm a tired mom. Give me a break.
Do you receive government payments? No. No, my household makes too much collectively to qualify for anything like that.
The only
I mean, we get WIC.
Yeah, like that's the only government income we actually get.
But WIC you can actually qualify for pretty easily. I mean, WIC is one of those programs that if you're a working class mom in America, you really should look into them, even if you think, oh, I don't meet the income qualifications or whatever,
Like,
because
literally, all I had to do was get pregnant, and because me and Phoebe didn't make a lot at that time, I qualified even while I was pregnant.
Right, and we both worked pretty much full time at that time, you know, and still we were well within the income qualifications for WIC, so it's something worth looking into, for real.
And I will say,
if you're a working class mom and you're looking for more support.
Yeah, like if you're pregnant, literally try to sign up for your WIC, because you most likely will qualify if you're a low income household.
Even if you're like a lower middle income household, honestly. Like, that's one of those programs that's just pretty easy to qualify for. It's okay, Silas. I nearly passed away to a blunt. Yeah, Casey killed himself with a blunt the other day.
So
we were able to revive him, but it's okay.
Oh, it's fucking... Oh, okay, now I know. God.
It's world without an
Yeah, I realized that. And I'm wondering how the fuck this person knows my name, but I realized you probably said my name on stream a couple times. Huh?
I probably said it on stream a couple times. Plus, me and Casey have Discord contacts and shit, so.
That's okay. That just means I'm known and I'm liked. This
Don't
is a good
spit
thing.
on stream. Listen, hold on. Oh my god.
There you go.
Listen, there are very few places on the internet where you can receive this sort of raw, unfiltered content. And what you look at as a demerit, I look at as one of our chief and primary distinguishing factors.
And then he said, please, after I did that. Listen, you don't like the stream? Go away.
I mean, it really is that simple. But this person has been nice, so I'm trying to be nice to them, you know? But, hey, femboy, what's up? What's up? You pig? I am a little bit of a pig. But who isn't sometimes? I'm in my own backyard. Where else am I allowed to be a pig but back here, you know?
I love you too, Casey.
Like, I can't go out into the wider world and be a pig. I can't go out into a movie theater and just spit anywhere I want.
Haha.
It's the fucking backyard, you know? I can do that. I'm allowed. It's a thing back here. Well, what's up, femboy Stormtrooper?
Alright, I'm gonna go check on the baby.
Alrighty.
Okay, I'm leaving y'all in a minute. Alright, bye everybody.
So did you guys hear that Iran has struck back already? Iran has already levied another strike at Israel in response to the U.S. strikes. So the sort of weird hope that I saw some MAGA people coping with, that Iran was going to be blasted by our munitions and then they were instantly going to have a change of heart and the Ayatollah was going to come through and he was going to have a way better stance on all this shit because he was going to really see the power of American hegemony. No, that hasn't happened. No, in fact, it seems like the Ayatollah has doubled down his efforts. And as I was discussing last night, I'm pretty sure, Iran is not Gaza. Iran is not the Palestinians. Iran is not Syria, for that matter. Syria has been under economic sanctions for like 20 years. Iran was able to skirt past a lot of its economic sanctions. Like, they've been under sanction for even longer than Syria was, but Iran created what they considered the resistance economy, I think it was. So it's the resistance economy, where basically things that used to be imported into Iran are now made in Iran. So Iran has brought a shit ton of manufacturing to its country. Iran has made a bunch of really, really, really intelligent decisions in the wake of its kind of being singled out by the West and civilized countries. And so this war could drag on a really long time. And if it goes from, because right now what is basically happening is a drone war and a missile war. And if it progresses to the point where Iranian soldiers are mustering somewhere like in the West to begin a convoy to go invade Israel, or Israeli Defense Forces soldiers end up congregating on the eastern parts of their country to start some kind of invasion of Iran or something like that. This could go on forever and fucking ever. Literally forever. If this turns into a combat zone where troops are involved, this shit is never going to end. I mean, it will, obviously. Everything ends with time. But if this shit turns into a hot conflict with soldiers on the ground, I genuinely believe that we will be there for the next 20 fucking years. Hey, girl. I'm happy to see you as well. What's up, everybody? What's up? I'm just relaxing right now. I have to go to the pot shop before it closes, but I'm feeling lazy. Oh, man. That is a wonderful feeling, honestly, though. Knowing that you're going to the pot shop. Although I'm the kind of person that usually by the time I'm ready to go to the pot shop, I'm so fucking raring to go. There have literally been times when I've been awake for like 2 hours just waiting around for the pot shops to open. Just waiting around. Dude, I miss living out west sometimes. For real, for real. You will get my full love if you do Eminem's chorus to Forgot About Dre. Man. I don't think Silas would be able to do that, sadly. Silas is not a great rapper. I saw some news article talking about how Democrats are rallying to oppose Trump in the wake of these U.S. strikes on Iran. And it's just like, isn't this like the third time the Democrats have rallied to stop Trump since the fucking inauguration? Is this not like the 10th fucking time that that's happened? Like, at what point do we start taking them seriously? You know what I mean? Because it can't be now, right? Like, what is different about this? I think is what I'm trying to ask more than anything. What is different about this time? What is so different, either in their organization or with the actions that Trump is committing? We knew Trump was a fucking warmonger who was fake about his anti-war populism bullshit. We've known that for years. We've known for years that it's kind of bogus when Trump says, I didn't start any wars. I'm not a war president. I'm peace-minded. We've known for fucking years that that's mostly bullshit. So when the fuck are we supposed to expect some kind of change out of this shit? What I think should be taken from all of these news articles claiming that the Democratic Party is suddenly taking the Trump threat seriously and that they're rallying against him, what I think you should take from that more than anything is these are the candidates that will oppose Trump in 2028. These are the people. Look at who the big players in the feeble neutered opposition to Trump that happens in the wake of these strikes and in the wake of his other authoritarian actions. The feeble, ineffective response to that out of the Democratic Party. The big players in that will tell you who's running in 2028. So already there's a couple of players we know about. AOC, Bernie Sanders, Gavin Newsom. All of these people have initiated not just verbal and rhetorical attacks, but also like legal challenges towards the president. These are the people who you can expect to be leading the DNC's banner in 2028. And each of them, by the way, each of the people that I just listed are compromised, even Bernie Sanders. Trump 2028? Well, Trump cannot run in 2028. Even if I was a Trump supporter, you don't want Trump to run in 2028. Trust me, if Trump runs in 2028 and some kind of exception is made in the Congress for him to be allowed in, I guarantee you that will be his last administration. And I guarantee you that standard will be used to get a leftist president in there for 20 fucking years. Trust me, you don't want to fucking go down that path. Keep in mind that there is only one president that has ever managed to be elected to more than 3 terms. There's only one president in the history of the United States that was ever able to be elected to more than 3 terms, and that was Franklin Delano Roosevelt, a leftist, hardcore progressive Franklin Delano Roosevelt. This guy's definitely a Trump supporter. I'm not even a guy. I'm not even a guy, so the first part of your assessment is wrong, and then the second part is wrong because I'm not a Trump supporter. I'm just someone who recognizes a fucking compromised, failed party when I see one, bro. I'm just somebody who recognizes a compromised, failed fucking party when I recognize it, when I see it out in the wild, and that is the Democratic Party. The Democratic Party, according to its rhetoric, knew that this was going to be the outcome of the Trump administration. The Democratic Party, according to its rhetoric, knew that Donald Trump was going to be an authoritarian warmonger who was going to be overly friendly to Israel and overly hostile to other Middle Eastern powers. That is something that was known and preached about Trump from every fucking corner of the Democratic Party. And yet, what did they do to mount an offensive against him? What did they do to try and prevent his rise from power? Not a goddamn thing, as far as I can tell. They ran two of the worst candidates the DNC has ever seen. John Kerry can't hold a fucking candle to the ineptitude of Joe Biden. Al Gore can't hold a fucking candle to the unelectability of Kamala Harris. Bernie dropped out when he ran. He got bought out. 100% he did. Bernie got, that's why I said everybody that I just mentioned, Gavin Newsom, AOC, and Bernie Sanders are all fucking bought out corporate DNC shills. We know that about him now. I wish it was different. Would that it were so. But I didn't make it that way. As the great Vosh once said, it is that way. Bernie Sanders is a corrupted shill. I don't think he always was. Bernie used to fucking go to jail for justice. Bernie used to stand up for the things that mattered and for the rights of American citizens. But Bernie has been doing a really good job maintaining that kind of rhetoric while not actually enacting that kind of policy. And that's my problem with him. Girl got big brain mode. Plus, they also want to ignore all the shit Obama did in the Middle East. Yet want to cry about Trump, preach on. Yeah, no, 100%. I'm sick to death of the fucking Democratic Party. I'm sick to death of a so-called progressive party that somehow manages to find itself on the bad side of every fucking war that America wants to get involved in. I'm sick to death of a Democratic Party that goes around promising its supporters universal health care. And then every motherfucking time they're elected to office, there's some reason why it can't be done. Sick to death of it. Literally. I ain't even trying to be big brained about it or nothing. I've just realized the fucking scam that's afoot. We are being sold a bad bill of sale by this Democratic Party that wants us to believe in a bunch of fucking horse shit that they're never going to pursue because they're bought out by the same motherfuckers the Republicans are. Their rhetoric exists to distinguish them. It does not exist to indicate what their fucking policies will be. And once you understand that, you understand so much more about American politics. Once you understand that Democratic policy rhetoric and Democratic policy are two very different fucking things, man, American politics start to make so much more sense. And the same thing is true of the Republican Party, honestly, but to a lesser extent. I mean, the Republicans really will just come right out and say, yeah, I'm pro-oil, yeah, I'm pro-fracking. Whereas the Democratic Party will lie and say, no, we're against that sort of thing. And then they sign the contract for the XL pipeline, you know. Can I ask you a question? What are you? I am a nuisance to man and a mystery to the gods. I'm the snow that falls on the mountain overnight in a foggy June night in the mountains. I'm the water that cascades down from that snow melt in the spring. But for you, right now, I'm just a political streamer on the internet. But yeah, this idea that the fucking DNC is going to be our savior in this conflict, you guys got to get over that shit. Anybody in here that's listening to this, if you are a progressive, if you've ever voted for the Democrats, or if you're sitting around waiting right now for something to come out that confirms in your mind that the DNC is taking this shit seriously and working to correct it, you need to give up on that. You need to give up on that fucking idea and get ready to get your ass into Washington, D.C. and camp out for a month. Because only that is what's going to fucking cause the massive sorts of change that we want. And you can go listen to a conversation that I had with a guy named Paul Zigo the other day. You can go find it on @thepoltergeist. I went on a show through Discord, and we were talking about this very fucking thing. It's going to take a movement of 3 million people or more camping out in Washington, D.C. for at least a month. And in the wake of these strikes against Iran, and in the wake of our continued involvement in that conflict, it's looking more and more likely that something like that's going to pop off. There are already anti-war protests being held in New York City as of right now. As of like 15 minutes ago, I just read that that's already fucking happening. So if that's already happening a day after the strikes, and the atmosphere of protest has been pretty fucking intense for the last month, so you can bet your fucking ass this summer we're about to be looking at a second summer of love, and I need you guys to be ready to be out there. Because if you're waiting around for the fucking Democrats to come save your ass, I got news for you. They got too much money riding on the line. Bought out motherfuckers got too much money riding on this shit to support us, to support our fucking needs. It is time that people take power back in this country and be ready for that eventuality, because that is what will save us. Not waiting around for AOC to get off of her ass and form a fucking committee within the House to fucking specifically pursue, to doggedly pursue Trump's removal from office by convincing a bunch of Republican senators to vote for his removal. That's not going to happen. Okay? Nobody on the DNC even has that kind of political sway with the Republicans anymore. You are not going to get that to happen. What might happen is Trump might change his fucking tune if Washington, D.C. becomes an unnavigable nightmare that is literally chock full of hippies playing music, serving each other donated food, and talking about the revolution. That will save us. It will. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter that there's a Republican in office. It doesn't matter. None of this shit matters. What matters is that the American people make their voice heard. That's what matters. That's what will bring about the change. If you're sitting around waiting for the fucking Democrats, give up. Give up. You might as well fucking... You might as well take Palestine out of your fucking profile picture and out of your bio. Take the Palestine flag down. And take all of the proud leftist rhetoric that you've been spewing, because if you're waiting on the fucking Democratic Party to fucking fix your problems, then you've lost the plot as a leftist at this point. Because once again, according to DNC rhetoric, they knew this shit. According to DNC rhetoric, the fucking Democrats knew that this was going to be the outcome of a Trump presidency. Existence. Kamala didn't primary a single fucking place. People were saying Al Gore wasn't a great fucking candidate for the DNC to choose way back when, but you know what? Al Gore managed to fucking primary. Al Gore didn't have to steal the fucking primary to become the forerunner. Kamala had to be fucking christened the fucking nominee because nobody would vote for her ass in 2020. Nobody primaried her, so they didn't give her a chance to be primaried in 2024. So they presented the two most unelectable candidates in the party's entire fucking history. And they are really going to act surprised now and act like now is the time to act? According to your rhetoric, the time to act was about 7 months ago. According to your rhetoric, the time to act was actually about a year ago. According to their rhetoric, the time to act was a year ago, when they still had the ability to kick Joe Biden right the fuck up out of the Democratic Party and say, no, the Democratic Party has a new face. Because the fucking common wisdom coming out of the DNC right now, if you talk to a DNC shill, if you talk to a DNC insider or something like that, the common wisdom, bro is giving Kyle Kulinski talking points. Bro, it is not my fault that me and Kyle happen to both be intelligent people. That is not my fucking fault. I don't even watch that much Kyle. That's the fucked up thing. I watch maybe a Kyle video a week. So no, I'm not just parroting fucking Kyle Kulinski talking points. If me and Kyle have arrived at the same talking points, it's because it's the fucking writing on the wall. Kyle Kulinski's a pretty apt fucking political commentator. He's gotten some things wrong, in my opinion, most famously thinking that Kamala was going to win in a landslide, which might have been the most out of touch take that a political commentator has ever made. I don't know how the fuck he managed to find that much copium, but for the most part, Kyle's critiques and commentaries on society and politics are pretty useful and pretty intelligent. So I'll take that as a compliment, actually. But they knew this shit. They knew this was going to happen. Democratic Party rhetoric makes it clear that the DNC either believed that this is what was going to happen or was willing to tell the American people and fearmonger about it but weren't actually willing to act in favor of these revelations because they didn't kick Joe Biden out. And what I remember what I was going to say now. If you talk to a party insider, if you talk to a DNC shill or something like that, you will get this fucking line. You will get this bullshit line that the reason why the Democratic Party has been losing votes is because they've gone too far to the left. When in fact, it's the complete fucking opposite. The reason why the Democratic Party keeps losing votes is because their rhetoric has gone so far to the left, but their fucking policy has stayed right in the center right. They went from being a party that, talked a bunch of shit about trans people, just as much shit as the Republicans did. They went from a party that made fun of trans people just as hardcore as anybody else did, to a party that now openly touts trans rights as a valid goal. But they don't do shit all. They don't do fuck or all to protect trans people and their rights. So if you ask me, somebody who's not a confidant of the Democratic Party, somebody who's just, a regular American voter, you ask me what the problem with the Democratic Party is, they're too fucking Republican. They're Republicans in blue ties that keep racing to the fucking right because the people who lead that party are so goddamn out of touch and so rich that they have no fucking clue what goes on in a regular American household anymore. They don't know. They're unfucking aware of it. And what's more, it doesn't seem like they want to get aware of it. So fuck them. We need a third party in this country. But more importantly than a third party, we need a popular movement of united people. And it doesn't need to just be leftists. It needs to be people who agree on some basic shit. There should not be a single person in America that has to fucking go into debt because they got cancer. There should not be a single person in America that has to go into debt because they broke a bone. There is not a single person in America who should have to fucking go into massive amounts of debt in order to be able to get a decent job in their area. That is not something that this country should charge you out the ass for. It is not something that we should normalize in our culture. The idea of every fucking advancement in life and every fucking creature comfort comes at the fucking expense of your life and savings and everything that you've worked for. That idea is toxic. That idea is wrong. I don't care who you are or what side you're coming from. There are enough right-wing populists for me to know that universal health care kind of makes sense whether you're a Trump supporter or a Biden supporter. So if we all know that, right, and from the polls, it seems like we all know that. We all know that universal health care, good goal. We need it. Something we would be better off with than the current system where people just get fucked over for it. You find like maybe a quarter of people that don't support universal health care. So people that believe in universal health care make up a majority of it. Sounds like we could probably get enough people together to have that be one of the things that we unite in Washington, D.C. peacefully in occupation until our needs are met. In peaceful occupation until our needs are met. We should meet on those bases, right? On the basis of things that we fucking agree on, right? Me and some right-winger are not going to agree on the matter of trans rights. But you know what we might agree on? We might agree that universal health care is something that this country has needed for 20 fucking years. We might agree that housing reform is long overdue. We might agree that some price controls when it comes to food and other necessities might be in order. There are things that we could fucking agree on. I mean, hell, it wasn't the fucking Democratic Party that started the fucking EPA. It was a goddamn Republican. It was a fucking Republican. So you're telling me that I can't find a single fucking person on the right that would agree with me that selling off America's national forests is a bad fucking idea? I guarantee you there are people. And that's the fucked up thing. I've been thinking about it ever since the conversation I had with Paul Zigo the other day. We need to have a national conversation in this country that goes past the fucking partisan divide. Yes, I'm trans. Yes, I'm queer. Yes, you probably have some bigotries. Let's put those aside for a few minutes. You don't have to agree with how I dress or how I present myself or the types of clubs that I go into or the types of bars I go to or anything like that. Please punch the idiot button. Okay. Let me punch the idiot button. Let me make things readable. Okay. There you go. Idiot button has been punched. Yay! Okay. But, it doesn't need to matter to anyone else what I look like, what kind of bars I go to, what bathroom I go in. Like, how the fuck is that even going to come up in your life? And all of those things, ultimately, even though they affect my life, all of them are distractions. All of them. Every right-winger spending time arguing about whether or not trans people should be allowed into this bathroom or another bathroom are engaging in the time-honored American art of the working class being distracted from the ball. The working class being shown, hey, look over here, as the rich, the bourgeoisie, the ownership class run off with all the fucking goods. I do agree with your ideas of getting rid of two-party system. Now I'm listening. Yeah, we have to get rid of the two-party system, right? The Republicans clearly don't give a shit about us. They openly talk about how they don't give a shit about working-class people. And the Democratic Party talks shit about how they do support working-class people, but you look at their fucking policy and it's obvious that they don't. So we need something better. Can men ontologically become women? I think that most men you would describe as having become women were probably women the whole time that were obligated by society and their raising and things like that to present in a way opposite of that, right? That were like forced to present as men. But sure, I guess. I don't know that I'm intelligent enough to answer that question with any kind of verisimilitude, though. I don't know that I could tell you what ontologically means if you asked me to define it. Universal healthcare would put too much strain on taxes. That's not true at all. That is literally just a line that the Republican Party feeds us. It's a line that the Republican Party and the ownership class feeds us so that we don't fucking rise up and demand this shit en masse. It's a line that they have used to convince working class people like yourself that there's no way we can afford that. Let me ask you something, Ryan. Why is it? Can you just riddle me this, Brian? Or Ryan, I mean. Riddle me this. How come we can afford to spend $2 billion, with a B, $2 billion per fighter jet when it comes to the B-2 program, right? How come we can afford to spend $2 billion per unit when it comes to the B-2 Spirit, but we can't afford to spend, some tens of billions every year on getting every single American healthcare? You realize we have 19 B-2s on our fleet at $2 billion a pop? That is 9, 18. That is $38 billion. $38 billion that went to one very small part of our bomber fleet. Private healthcare is what costs so much. Single payer, yeah, 100%. 100%, right? And I feel like this is one of those arguments, right? That there are very few people that you need to make this argument for anymore. Very few people will still argue with you about the idea of universal healthcare being more efficient. It just is. It's been shown time and time again. Whenever they study these systems in other countries, it has been shown time and time again that universal healthcare is a way more efficient way to organize things. Universal healthcare takes care of the problem, and it allows for a different way of things being budgeted. You get rid of so many fucking middlemen, but there are just some people who have been sold on the idea for so long that it's kind of hard to deprogram that, Study the philosophical roots of trans, Foucault. Yeah, I reject the idea that all transgenderism began with Foucault. I've heard of Michel Foucault, and I reject the idea that he is the progenitor of transgenderism. I felt like I was a girl since I was a fucking little ass kid, since many years before I was able to even understand the fucking name Foucault or be able to pronounce it correctly, much less have a passing familiarity with his work. So if you want to super chat again and tell me more shit about how a fundamental aspect of my identity was just informed by some old French dude, we can go ahead and do that. Are you a Jensen supporter by any chance? You're a TERF, aren't you? Because I know somebody else who also brings up Foucault every time they have to debate a trans person. Dog, we are like the only developed country that doesn't have universal health care. Only people who you will ever hear shit on it have never lived outside the U.S. Oh, 100%. 100%. The only people that you ever hear talking up the benefits of universal health care are people who've never lived outside of the United States and people who have never been left with a multiple thousands of dollars medical bill. That's it. Those are the people who still support a private healthcare system, right? Everybody else has long since come on the fucking train of universal healthcare. Everybody else has long since joined the fucking march of universal or single payer healthcare, however you want to phrase it. But there is a group of people, some of which profit from the privatization of the medical industry, and some of which are simply brainwashed, who seem hell-bent on insisting that private healthcare is better. But it's all ultimately based on a terrible understanding of other countries' medical systems, really. Yes, is there waits for certain procedures in Canada and in other countries that have a universal healthcare system? Yeah, just like there are waits in America. Do you think, like, are you under the impression that if you want a boob job, all you have to do is shop the right doctor and you can find it? Well, that's the fucking thing, right? That's the difference. That's the difference. And maybe we finally landed on what some people that oppose universal healthcare are afraid of, right? Because here in America, if you go to the right doctor, if you shop around enough and you've got enough money, you can find somebody who will be able to get you sooner than 6 weeks, whenever your normal plastic surgeon will have an appointment opening, right? But if you don't have that kind of money, then you have to wait. You have to wait for whoever can take you, right? If you've got enough money to get some kind of cosmetic procedure, but not enough to shop around to every doctor that offers it in the country or something like that, you've got to wait. You've got to wait until your doctor gets a slot open for you. And the same is true in Canada, but it's completely democratic over there. It's completely universal, right? So you wait equally long whether you're the mayor or the janitor. And that's, I think, what some people are afraid of. They are afraid of the fucking peons being able to get the same quality of healthcare that they get. Did trans people always exist? No historical proof? There's no historical proof? Are you high? Are you higher than me? What do you mean there's no historical proof? Male skeletons being buried in women's garb is not proof enough for you? Gotcha. Well, listen, bro, if you want to continue to make me being trans something that gets in the way of me and you coming together on some economic ideas that would be better for this country, if you want to make me being trans the reason why your dumb ass is completely unwilling to work with me as a person, far be it from me to talk you out of that position. Got banned by this guy the other day for calling him a hypocrite after he said he wanted open conversation while at the same time bullying someone in the chat. Don't waste your time here. Oh, yeah, no. I 100% bully people that are dumbasses in the chat, for sure. Yeah. Like, you got a problem with it? Scroll the fuck up, Dustin. You're not open to talking, liar. You're in here unbanned, ain't you, bitch? You just want someone who will listen to your stupid bullshit and not contradict it in any way. And that's not what I'm here to do. I am not here to provide you and every other fucking parasocial moron that's never had a genuine conversation with another human being with some kind of ideological punching bag with whom to have a constant dialogue. Now your dumbass is banned because you weren't smart enough to just fucking ask the questions that you wanted to have a conversation about. You wanted to get caught up in this bullshit land you like to live in, where you're just arguing about the very nature with which people argue. Fuck you, bitch. Only people who played the line in college football can bully me. Did you play the line in college football? I ain't even went to college. Trans get so violent? Not nearly as violent as cisgender people. Not nearly as violent as cisgender people. Jeffrey Dahmer was a cisgender man. Committed the worst and most heinous single committer crime ever in the history of humanity. Adolf Hitler killed 6 million Jews. Cisgender man. Joseph Stalin, 8 million. Between 8 and 16 million. Cisgender man. Now words are violence. Yeah, they used to criticize us for that, by the way. I also cannot help but notice that Tony did not answer as to whether they are a Derek Jensen sim. Trans are the ones saying misgendering is discursive violence. See, you. See, the beautiful thing about the accusation you just made, right, is that you think it's acceptable for you to say that all trans people believe something because you've heard a few trans people say it. But if I said that all cisgender people are mass murderers, or that all cisgender people are inherently biased towards trans people, or anything like that, if I made some kind of broad sweeping statement like you just made, you would cry foul all day long. If I made that kind of broad sweeping statement about cisgender people, you would be so pissed off. But you're willing to make that about me. You don't know what the fuck I think about misgendering. For the record, I think misgendering makes you a moron. I don't think it's violence, but I do think it makes you a dumb fuck. Your dog's getting put down tomorrow? That sucks. I'm sorry. I hope you're managing to cope with that okay. Finally, fucking train gone. Let me see here. Hey, Luke Skyrunner, what's up? What's up? What's up? Doing pretty well. Do you like James Lindsay and Carolyn Borisenko? No, I guess not, because I don't even know how to pronounce that last name. I'm not a fan of loud noises either. Yeah, I mean, I can deal with some loud noises every now and again, but it is definitely not my favorite thing, you know? Definitely not my favorite thing. It also kind of just makes it hard to talk to the chat because I'm always worried that you guys can't really hear me when when a train is going by. I don't know. I've heard some people say that you can hear me through it, so... A genuine question, what made you come to the conclusion that you were trans? Well, I always knew that I didn't fit in, right? So here's the fucking difficult thing about being trans, right? Well, one of the many difficult things about being trans when it comes to the realization of the information by itself. Hold on one second. Let me light a joint, please. Just... Okay, so one of the difficult things about realizing you're trans, right? You are not born with the word trans in your lexicon. And most people aren't trans, so most people don't raise their kids to be knowledgeable about trans identities because most people just don't have enough familiarity with it to even begin to the topic. You know, maybe nowadays there are more parents who are willing to buy their kids books that are ostensibly pro-trans or whatever, but that's kind of a new thing, right? That's something that we didn't used to have. And as a result, most trans people, especially trans people my age, didn't get to know what a trans person was until they were like 16, 17, 18. And I'm no different. So here's what I knew until I heard the word transgender. I knew that I didn't fit in with other boys. I knew that I hated men's clothing. I knew that when I was allowed to wear something that I perceived as more feminine, that I felt better. I knew that when I was allowed to hang out and exist within groups of women and among women, I felt better. I was always more comfortable opening up to women and talking to women. Now, you can say the reasons for this are whatever they are, but ultimately what it led to was a profound sense of gender dysphoria. I looked at my body and it felt wrong to me. I looked at my clothes and they didn't seem like they were mine. And I lived with this kind of, honestly, I just lived with the assumption that this is just what it means to be a boy for the longest time until I came across the story of Leela Alcorn. And Leela Alcorn's story is what introduced me to the idea of trans people, what introduced me to the idea of gender transition as a concept. And once I read about her and her story and how she described feeling, I knew I have found the answer. Now I know I'm trans. Now, what do I do about it? And for about 6 years, my answer was nothing. The answer for about 6 years was, well, I'm not going to do anything about it because I really don't know what to do about it. I felt like I couldn't come out because I wasn't sure how supportive my family would be. There were certain people in my family I knew wouldn't be supportive. And I also wasn't sure how supportive the community that I lived in at the time was going to be. So I held off on it for a few years. And slowly, ironically, it was during the Trump administration that like rhetoric against trans people kind of ramped up from a certain camp in America, but in response to that ramp up of anti-queer rhetoric, a bunch of pro-queer rhetoric started kind of popping up, and more people started declaring themselves allies, and more people started being open and honest about their sexuality and stuff like that. Yeah, because it's just kind of a natural response in Americans, I think, to go against what our leaders tell us to do. You know, we don't like being told how to think, and I think that reaction actually caused that counter reaction that led to higher levels of support in America. And by the time 2020 came around, I felt pretty comfortable with the idea of coming out, and so I did. And about, you know, 2 weeks later, I think. No, it wasn't actually. No, it was 2 weeks after. So about 2 weeks after the lockdown started is when I came out as trans, and you know, been living as a woman ever since. This thing has gone out. Let me see. Trans is Gnostic, divine spark trapped in prison. Yeah, sure, maybe. I've never truly understood the whole Gnostic thing when it comes to like the Gnostics as a religious movement. I know like the difference between agnostic and Gnostic when it comes to the topic of knowledge is supposed to be like, do you believe that something can be known, or do you think that it's impossible to know? And if you think that it's impossible to know, you're agnostic, and if you think that it is possible, then you're Gnostic. But I am not nearly enough of a philosopher to know the fine distinctions between these things, or to really be able to tell you much about them, you know? We ain't religious, lol. Yeah, I mean, that's kind of, I think that's the issue I'm taking. I think I get what they're trying to say. I think maybe I would even agree under a different context, but it's just kind of hard for me to understand it on an immediate level, I guess. Gnostics believe in a prison material world that we need to escape. I guess I see what you're saying, yeah. Yeah. But for trans people, it's not about escaping our bodies so much as it is making them look like how we want them to look. I mean, I'm sure that there are some trans people that want to like fully escape their bodies and shit, but they're probably just transhumanists in general, you know? Probably doesn't have much to do with any trans in particular, like transgender in particular. Gnosticism is interesting as a philosophy, but a lot can be interpreted metaphorically like the rest of the Bible. Oh, well, hell yeah. I mean, that's one of the beautiful things about the Bible, and we've talked about it here a million times, right? Is the fact that the Bible is infinitely reinterpretable, I guess you could say. Like, you can interpret and reinterpret the Bible pretty much endlessly. As a gay man, I'm not supporter of the movement. I don't support it because the movement has gone off the rails and I have my rights, so why don't we? Yeah, why don't we, right? You got yours. That's a very fuck you, got mine kind of attitude. That's a very fuck you, got mine kind of attitude. Who do you think is coming next? If the right wing gets what they want on trans people, do you really think they're gonna stop with trans people? What the fuck makes you think that? Look at how much rhetoric. I think a lot of people, especially anti-trans but otherwise leftist gay people, I think that they have been living in a media bubble for so long that they have forgotten how the Republicans talk about them. They have forgotten that the only good gay man in the Republican Party is a dead gay man. They have forgotten that the only good queer in the Republican Party is a closeted queer or a dead queer. They have forgotten that. Trust me, the Republican Party, they are not your friends. The Republican line on trans people is not a friendly line to you. In fact, it's a line that leads directly directly to the destruction of your rights, just like it leads to mine. Why are you running from a simple question? What question am I running from? It isn't so much an escape from the material as it is embracing it and shaping it to match what we want. Yeah, that's what I would say, Kiwi. It's not like we're trying to escape the material. It's like we're trying to mold the material into something better. Yeah, it's 100% a selfish and fucking hateful outlook. It's a selfish-ass outlook that says, well, I got all my rights, so why would I even care anymore? Why would I care about you? Yeah, why would you care about me? And why would I care about you? Fuck it. Why? You see, people love this fucking mentality when they feel like they are the king of the world. When they feel like they're on the winning side and they feel like they are the ones in charge and like they're the ones running the narrative, people love this kind of fuck you got mine attitude. But people hate it the second it starts to inconvenience them. Dude, the second people start to see the pale, foul fruits of their super far-right conservative advocacy, they start to reject it. They start to run from it. They run scared from it. But this is just the reality of it. This is just the reality of it. You are preaching a fuck you got mine attitude in regards to queer people because you've decided it doesn't affect you anymore. So why should you be concerned about anyone else's rights? Well, I got news for you. There were lots of people in Nazi Germany that felt the same fucking way. And one by one, every one of those dissident groups went away. The trade unions thought that they would be fine after the Jews got rounded up. Let's see. The Jews thought that they would be fine after the Poles and Romanis were rounded up. And the Poles and Romanis thought that they would be fine as soon as the beggars and as the Jews were all rounded up. And each and every one of them ended up going to the same concentration camps. So can anyone tell me what a woman is? Yeah, a human being who identifies and presents as a woman. That is a woman. A human being who identifies and presents as a woman. Define it any other way, and I'll point out how you're exclusionary. Define it any other way, and I will point out how you are excluding your grandma, or your sister, or just really any random hypothetical cis lady that might be out there. Define it with body parts, I dare you. Define it with body parts. Please define it with body parts. Because either you will be confronted with the definition that includes at least some trans people, or you'll be confronted with the definition that excludes old women and women with a number of different disorders. Don't hide all the trolls. We gotta see some of their dumbass responses. So you just defined woman as someone who identifies as a woman. Cool. So a tree is something which is a tree. I mean, it really is just kind of tautology. I know that you find that idea offensive or whatever, but yeah, when it comes to things that we kind of just made up, like the idea of gender, it really is that simple. And no, say what I said, not what you want me to have said. What I said was a woman is someone who identifies and presents as a woman. Yeah, ask stupid questions, get stupid answers, you know? A woman is someone you perceive to have a vagina on the basis of what they're wearing, how they sound, and how they look otherwise. Yeah. A woman is someone you perceive to have a vagina, or if you're a little bit more progressive, someone you perceive to at least identify as a woman on the basis of their presentation. I mean, that is effectively what a woman is in common vernacular. If you really get down to the gender theory of it, you start coming up with a lot more complicated an answer, right? The more you look into the topic, the more complicated the answer gets. I'm sorry that there's not a simple, easy answer for this question for you. Chromosomal disorders exist, intersex disorders exist, old women exist, you know? Okay, so you're going to define a woman. That a woman is a human being with a functional vagina. Okay, so no women with MRKH. If a woman has Meyer-Rokitansky-Kuster-Hauser syndrome, she is no longer a woman by that definition. Neither is any woman who's had to have parts of her vagina removed due to cervical cancer or something like that. Cool. So you've just excluded a good 5% of the cisgender female population. Cool. Your definition is useless. Great. Wonderful. Okay. So you're going to define it as a functional uterus. Okay. So every old woman ceases to be a woman. After she's gone through menopause, she no longer has a functioning uterus, so she is no longer a woman by that definition. Okay, well, maybe it's something else. Maybe it's something a little more vague. Well, at this point, you're just starting to sound like one of us guilty transes. So, this is one of those things that the conservatives and the right-wingers in America want to believe that there is some easy, simple answer for, when the truth of it is, it's a complicated question, and the truth of it has changed a bunch throughout human history, dude. Things are acceptable now for a woman, which would have been seen as, like you could have thrown, like, there are things that women do every single day in America that you could have thrown a woman in a fucking mental asylum 200 years ago for. Wearing pants, among them. Study philosophy, your points are easily debunked. I haven't seen you debunk a single one yet. I haven't seen anybody debunk a single point that I've made. You saying something was debunked does not debunked it make. You don't... Dude, I love the myth of the academic, right? The myth of the academic is that you have to study philosophy for a certain amount of time before your opinions are valid. You have to study this thinker and that thinker, and you have to read this text and that text in order for your opinions to be taken seriously. Well, fuck you. I got news for you. Most of America has yet to read a single philosophical document. I've at least read a couple, and that puts me already far and ahead of most Americans. So the fucking argumentation that I feel responsible to make is not argumentation coming from some deep philosophical place like I'm fucking Socrates. 'Cause I ain't. I'm just a regular old American just like you. I'm just a normal, regular fucking American just like any of you guys. So why would I sit in here quoting Sophocles at you, quoting Diogenes at you? I think my arguments can stand and fall on their own merits. What is a gender? What degree of melanin makes somebody a gender? When does the line between ginger and blonde happen? I mean, I think what you're arriving at is the fact of subjectivity, which is just something that exists. I'm sorry. Like, people love to think of things as being strictly like set in stone when it comes to the nature of reality or the nature of human perceptions. But the fact of it is, while reality might have some recurring patterns, there might be some things that you can extract from reality based on what we're able to observe and what we're able to observe repeatedly. You really can't get any kind of perception or kind of pattern, rather, out of human perception. Every human being exists in a little world of their own creation, because that's the fucking tragedy of the human brain. Our brains invent for us an entire reality for us to occupy that is based upon perceptions from the outside world, but that can be so profoundly affected to make it so as to make it indistinguishable from non-reality. We go around assuming everything's real because we have to in order to fucking get along and live cheek by jowl. But if we really get to fucking thinking about it, there's not a goddamn thing you can point out to me that actually proves that any of this shit is more real than it is inside of our heads, if that makes sense. Oh, there's only male and female. I mean, even that is kind of a misnomer. You realize, like, there are intersex conditions, there are chromosomal disorders. Like, yeah, sure, male and female are the two most common designations for human genitalia. But there are all kinds of variations within that. Instead of just saying your argument can be debunked, try to actually debunk it. Yeah, 100%. Instead of telling me your argument's bad, yeah, I can debunk this. This is debunkable. Whatever. Just fucking present your argument then. Because I'm sick and tired of people telling me you're wrong. I would rather be told why I'm wrong. Because it doesn't take any fucking effort or any knowledge of the situation to type out with your big fat ape paw, you're wrong. That doesn't take any fucking engagement with the conversation. So if you think I'm wrong, how about you stand on your own arguments and present a case for why I'm wrong? Here's the argument, your definition of corn. Huh? Who the fuck is talking about corn? Who the fuck is talking about... Man, I swear to God, sometimes chat is literally unreadable just because it's so fucking off topic. God made man and woman in his image. Dude, all I gotta say is this, in regards to that particular argument, if God didn't like queer people, if God doesn't like queer people, doesn't want us around, etc., why are there so many of us? Why are we such a universal fucking fact of existence? Why do queer people exist in every country on this planet if God didn't want us to be around? Either God is powerless to stop our existence, in which case he's powerless to stop or create anything, in which case he's basically not God. Might as well just be a magical little spirit fairy floating out there causing good feelings and bad feelings every so often. But leaving that aside, so either God is powerless to stop our existence, or God is okay with our existence for one reason or another. Or you're telling me that you worship a hateful God, an evil God that would create people that he knows are going to defy him, that he knows are going to go right to hell. And he would create people that fall under that, like, just because. And I don't believe that. I think that that cannot be true. I think that if there was a God and he actually existed, was actually as evil as some Christians act like he must be, because it is Christians really that make God out to be as evil as he's made out to be, really. Because atheists just point out how evil the things that he is accused of doing would be if they were true, right? Christians will just say all of these things, but then gloss over the fact that they're evil. But if all of these things are true, the world would be a way more hateful, a way more destructive and violent place than it is. And we wouldn't have lived in relative cooperation for the last 2,000 fucking years. Fuck 2,000 years. The last 12,000 years, literally, the last 12,000 years worth of human civilization is predicated on our cooperation. Yeah, we occasionally go to war. Yeah, there's occasionally some prejudices and shit like that has to be worked out. But the fucking story of humanity is one of cooperation. And we have never been less cooperative than we are in the modern day. Why is that? By the way, there's 104 people in here. Make sure you guys hit that like button because it really does help. Every single time you hit the like button is another chance for the stream to be recommended in even more people's algorithms, which does nothing but make your experience better by virtue of making the chat more engaging. We're going to war, and that's what this is what we're worried about. I mean, I started this out talking about the Iran conflict, and I'm happy to go back to it as a topic. I think it is a more important topic, Donovan. I agree with you. Like, I'm fucking trans and I agree with you. Like, that's what I was saying earlier. At the beginning of this conversation, I was talking about how, you know what? If hateful people want to say that me being trans is enough to make them set aside all of the economic self-interest that we might share, or all of the peacetime self-interest that we might share, all goals for peace that we might share and things like that, fine. I can't, like, far be it for me to talk someone out of a good delusion. Because what I think the most pressing matter affecting humanity right at this second is the fact that there are right now, plans in motion. There are things in motion right now which cannot be undone. The U.S. has launched strikes on Iran. Iran has launched retaliatory strikes against Israel because Israel is our ally and the one who attacked them first. And this entire war is all predicated on Israel's willingness to attack its neighbors illegally and unprompted. And I think that is a way more fucking pressing issue. I think it's way more important that Americans talk about that now than arguing about whether trans people are valid or like what bathrooms we should be going in and shit. I'm just in the unfortunate position of being one of the people who was affected by America's march to the right on this particular social issue. So yeah, sometimes I still have to talk about it, even in the midst of war. But it sucks. It does. It 100% sucks because all ultimately is a fucking distraction. All of this is a distraction, bro. The fact that people are in here asking me questions about the epistemological nature of womanhood or whatever, it's all fucking distractory bullshit. It's all shit to keep their fucking eye off the ball. Not gonna lie, you're speaking truth. Not sure how Algo got me here, but you got +1 sub. I don't know either. I know I stream Birdie because the YouTube algorithm is most friendly to that kind of content right now. As far as like small-time creators and shit like that, you really can build a sub base right now just by being baseline interesting, interacting with your chat, and streaming in the right format. So that's what I do, you know? And all we do here on these particular streams is have conversations. Now, I do have a long-form video project that I'm going to be releasing hopefully within the next month or two, where I'm going through and doing a bunch of deep dive research into the history of conflict in the Middle East over the last 100 years and the history of conflict in the Middle East in general. And I want to cover the big players, the big national personalities and individual personalities, and I don't know, make a mini series that kind of describes this history to people and explains how we got here, what the implications are, and maybe some paths forward that could lead to peace, lasting peace. Which is your favorite? Do what? Who do you think gave Iran the missile technology? China, maybe? But I don't know. This idea that Iran had to be given their missile technology is kind of based on what I genuinely believe is kind of a out-of-date view of the Middle East. Like, yes, there are some... Sorry, the guineas are all going off. I'm in the army and I can't wait to get deployed to Iran. Man, that sounds fucking scary. But I don't know. Some people in your position seem addicted to that kind of danger and that kind of risk factor and shit. Personally, I don't think I would want to be facing that fate, but hey, if that's your idea of fun, then far be it for me to take that away from you, friend. I just hope you stay safe over there, because I think it's a tragedy anytime America loses, you know, a healthy young person to the war machine. I think it's shitty. I think it would be way better if you and the rest of the United States military were deployed here domestically to help clean up some of these cities and rebuild some of these cities that have been like so completely fucking forgotten about by their local governments and shit like that. I think that there's definitely some way better uses of you guys' resources than fighting Israel's battles, especially a battle that they fucking started. Iran was okay, let me put it this way. When Israel struck Iran, Tulsi Gabbard, director of national security, came out and said, no, Iran is no closer to having a nuclear bomb than they ever were. That is not why Iran is stockpiling nukes, or, you know, nuclear material, I should say. That is not why Iran is stockpiling nuclear material. And I'm just going to throw out a theory here, by the way, now that there's plenty of people in here. I think that the primary reason Iran is stocking so much highly enriched uranium is to give the world the appearance, the idea that they might have a nuke. It's a bargaining chip. It's a fucking bargaining chip. Because you know what? If the Ayatollah says he's following a fatwa that bans the use and proliferation of nuclear arms, I believe him. Seems like a pretty religious guy to me. I don't know. It also seems like it's a really good way to get in on a technology that is being widely adopted across the entire world right now, which is nuclear power, nuclear medicine, things like that, right? I think that there's a way better chance that they want to be exporters of nuclear material than they do, like, I think that there's a way better chance of them being, like, secret or open exporters of enriched uranium at some point than it is for them to suddenly, like, we're going to wake up one day and Iran has a nuke. Because every inspection that's been done up until the one that happened the day before the strikes has shown that Iran is not that close to getting a nuke. That, as far as we can tell, none of their technology is even oriented in that direction. And they fucking let us tour their sites. That's the thing. The Iranian government lets the UN Security Council or the IAE or whatever, the IAEC, the International Atomic Energy Commission, they let them do tours of their facilities and shit. And the IAEC has come back and said there's no evidence of Iran having weapons, uranium that's intended for weapons usage. Like, that's just not something that's happening there. The technology that they have is not technology conducive to building a bomb. It's technology that's conducive to refining uranium for medical purposes, for power generation purposes, and to export to countries who do make nukes. But I think Iran wants the world to think they have a nuke, because Iran realizes that if the entire planet thinks that Iran has a nuke, the entire planet's going to be worried about attacking Iran. If everybody thinks Iran has a nuke, then that's way less of a chance Iran gets attacked by any kind of nuclear action. It's way less of a chance that Iran gets seriously attacked in general. Now, I don't think that this strategy has worked out, if that is indeed the strategy. I don't think that it's a good strategy that has worked out for the people, for the Ayatollah, for anybody, because people are dying right now on account of this strategy, if I'm right, and this has indeed been the strategy. But I genuinely believe that that's why. Because while I think that it would, like, I understand why people think that the religious fundamentalist, fucking terrorism exporting demon in the Middle East, or whatever we're referring to them as today, I understand why people think that that country would want to have a nuke. But if all the fucking inspections of the facilities don't turn out diddly squat in regards to the development of that technology, I don't know why we would suddenly think that they're super close to getting it. I don't know why. And the other fucking question in my mind is, if we suddenly know that they're 2 weeks away from a nuke, or a month away from a nuke, or something like that, why was Tulsi Gabbard out there a week and a half ago talking about how there's no sign of Iran being any closer to a nuke than they ever were? How the fuck were they able to get so far in so little time? It doesn't make any sense. It's wild how lacking in air defense capability Iran was. Well, it's part of the thing that makes me wonder how much support Iran is getting from other countries, right? Because it seems like Iran is showing what seems to me like the hallmarks of a country that's been focusing on its own weapons program. You know, I think that Iran has been focusing super heavily on ballistic missiles and drones, because that's so far what they've attacked Israel with. I don't think that they've worked super heavily on their air defense capabilities or their air raid capabilities or anything like that. And I think that that might prove to be a problem for them in the prosecution of this war. But once again, as Iran's defenses begin to fail, as things begin to get more serious in this conflict, China or Russia will step up and start providing aid. Probably not Russia, because Russia, from my understanding, is stretched pretty thin with its demands in eastern Ukraine. But China will probably step up, and China has been stepping up its fucking military for years, dude. China's military buildup is fucking crazy. This feels like Iraq and Afghanistan again. Husband went downrange. This is not rotation. This is combat zone. Husband lose part of himself back there. Oh, fuck yeah, it is. This is literally WMDs in Iraq again. Yes, you are 100% right. This is Saddam Hussein has nukes, part 2. This is Saddam Hussein has WMDs, part 2. That's literally what it is. And you are 100% right to see those lines of comparison. You're correct to see them. Crazy Ted Cruz leaked this completely angry during a Charlie Kirk interview. Do what? Ever think they found something that wasn't previously known? Then why don't they tell us about it? Why the lack of transparency? And why are you assuming that our government is suddenly lying to us? Okay. Why are we just assuming that that just because our government says something that it should be taken as 100% fact, that it should be taken 100% seriously? Like, why is that the assumption? Can I ask something? Why is it when somebody's political rivals are in office, when somebody's political opposites are in office, then you can't trust the government can't be believed, you can't listen to the government, anti-government rhetoric, left, right, center, right? But when someone's political siblings or people that they stand in somewhat solidarity with politically start coming out and making statements, then suddenly all of that is shit you can trust. You can trust the government's dialogue now because it's someone we like in office. You can trust the government now. It's ridiculous because it fucking goes back and forth every 4 years. And I'm sorry, the government does not fix and unfix its problems that quickly. Problems at the governmental level are fixed over a matter of decades, and they're fucked over a matter of decades, and they're unfucked over a matter of decades. Are you a Virgo? Yeah. I don't know what that has to do with anything, but yeah. Oh, I don't trust the government 100%? Well, that's what I'm saying. If you don't, think about it, right? Just think about it critically. No matter what your political party may be, no matter what you think happened on 9/11 or in any other fucking governmental, government-involved incident or whatever the fuck, no matter what you think about U.S. politics, it's pretty easy for all of us to agree that the government can't be trusted when it comes to matters of information. That they will lie to get us into war. They lied when they got us into Iraq, remember? No evidence of WMDs. No evidence found. Lied to get us into Iraq, lied to get us into Vietnam, lied to get us into Korea. But we're going to believe them now? Hell, they lied to get us into Afghan for as long as we were there. You realize the Taliban and Al-Qaeda are not the same thing? You realize the Taliban are the same motherfuckers we were funding back when they were called the Mujahideen under Reagan's administration? So we were lied to about Afghanistan. The idea that the Taliban was working with Al-Qaeda is fucking ridiculous. They were ideological rivals. The Taliban permitted the existence of the organization that would later come to be known as Al-Qaeda because the the Taliban government would occasionally recruit fighters from that program. The program that would later come to be known as Al-Qaeda, the organization, whatever you want to call it, was started. Number one, it was not some big open fucking, like, it was started as a pretty open thing, but a lot of the higher level, like, leadership of it and shit, that was not necessarily super fucking public knowledge, you know? It was just like, hey, this person is coming here to maybe talk to some people about joining the fight in Afghanistan for the Mujahideen back in the 80s. And as time went on, it became more secretive, right? And eventually it would come to be known as Al-Qaeda. But really, what we call Al-Qaeda is an arguably not real, loosely affiliated group of fighters who all are united pretty much only by their being Wahhabists and Kutubists, and are not really united by much other than that. Most of the principal players and what we know to be Al-Qaeda were killed long ago, and Al-Qaeda was never, ever used by Osama bin Laden himself to describe an organization until after September the 11th, 2001, when Osama bin Laden realized that this was the name the Americans had given him. They had given it to him during the trial for the 1998, I think it was Tasmania. The embassy was bombed, or no, was it Tunisia? Might have been Tunisia. It was one of those T countries, but their embassy got bombed, and in the trial for that event, Osama bin Laden was named as the leader of a criminal organization they called Al-Qaeda, because that's what they had to do in order to be able to charge Osama bin Laden under the existent laws of the United States. And all of this is shit that most people don't even know about Afghanistan. All of this is shit that complicates the issue of Afghanistan in a way most people aren't even aware. How about this? You know what one of the biggest... God damn it, I wish this fucking thing was going out. I'll give you another one. George W. Bush used to own an oil company. It's called Arbusto. Arbusto had some angel investors that would always float the company money whenever mismanagement or bad decisions led it down a bad road. You know who those angel investors were? The Saudi bin Laden group. And when Arbusto was bought by Harkin Energy, once again, the Saudi bin Laden group and their money followed with it. And yes, it's that bin Laden family. There are not two bin Laden families in Saudi Arabia. The same family that funded George W. Bush and his LARP as an oil man is the same family that produced the guy who organized the attack on 9/11. It's genuine fact. You can go look it up. Hell, just go watch Fahrenheit 9/11 by Michael Moore. It'll catch you up on game on all this shit. Tell us where you get your source from instead of saying random stuff, dude. Well, this, like, everything I'm talking right now, I first learned about in 2 documentaries, but it's stuff that you can independently verify if you just know where to start looking. I mean, I use Wikipedia as a great starter source, right? You can use Wikipedia as a place to go to get these documents that describe things, because a lot of the shit, when it comes to politics, America's involvement in these different foreign affairs, a lot of times what we know about them is based off of court documents that are released kind of... They're not released to any fanfare. It's not like the president is coming out and saying, hey, we just declassified this thing about the Gulf of Tonkin or anything like that. Unless it's of really serious public importance, that sort of thing usually isn't big news. And so it can be kind of hard because this stuff isn't indexed, right, to actually find where to start when it comes to verifying some of this shit. But if you know where to look, it's not hard to find. So yeah. There's just like too many sources, too much obscurification, and folks are wanting cold facts. Yeah, no, that's the fucking problem too. That's another problem with sourcing everything these days, is that it's kind of hard to point at one place and get all this information, right? Like, that's the fucking thing. That obfuscation, which I think is what you're actually trying to say, that obfuscation makes it incredibly difficult. And what I mean is that all of the information that I just gave you guys in this quick and reduced thing is information that's cobbled together from like a million different sources, you know? There's like one document that proves that Arbusto drilling was funded heavily by the Osama bin Laden group. And then there's another document that proves that Harkin bought Arbusto. And then there's another document that proves that Arbusto's CEO, George W. Bush, was made one of the like a board member of the buying company, Harkin. There's a document that proves that that the Saudi bin Laden group invested in Harkin after that buyout. So all of these different things are documents in and of themselves, right? They're all different things, like receipts and tax returns and all kinds of shit like that. That isn't necessarily something you're going to be able to find just by saying, well, go read this article or something like that. No, you're going to, like, I hate to do this to you, but you kind of have to do some research on it to really get an idea of how deep the rabbit hole goes on this shit. Because there are conspiracies out there that you can do a rabbit hole on all night and not really come to the truth of it. But they're conspiracies involving actual things that really happened, not fucking weird pyramids in Memphis, you know? You say this document because I'm not a legal expert. I can't tell you exactly which affidavit to look up, you know? I can't tell you exactly which tax return to look up. But I can tell you this much. If you look up Harkin Board of Directors, let's just say 1996 to 2000, you'll see that George W. Bush was one of their fucking members. You'll see that George W. Bush was in that fucking company. You know what I mean? I don't know exactly what document that would be contained within, but all of the things I'm saying, the long and short of it is, all of the things I'm saying are things that you can fucking Google. And if you want more information about them, there are 2 documentaries I want to recommend to you guys. Number 1 is called The Power of Nightmares. It explains how the rise of far-right Wahhabism in the Middle East has mirrored a rise of far-right neoconservatism here in the United States. How these two movements have fed off of one another, how they've used one another, how they've been used by one another. The other documentary covers George W. Bush and his involvement way more closely, and Saudi oil money and shit, and its involvement in 9/11 and the Wahhabist movement and shit like that. And it's called Fahrenheit 9/11 by Michael Moore. So the first one is by Adam Curtis, called The Power of Nightmares. Second one is by Michael Moore, called Fahrenheit 9/11. You watch those 2 documentaries, it'll blow you on your fucking ass in regards to American foreign policy. And all the shit presented in there is shit that you can go independently verify just by Googling the different matters. Just by Googling the different fucking assertions. For example, all, and I do mean every bit of far-right Wahhabism that exists in the modern day descends from one Middle Eastern school inspector from Cairo, Egypt, named Said Qutb. That's something you'll learn once you watch that first documentary and start Googling the names in it. Yeah, it just feels like a hell world. I mean, a lot of people feel that way right now. I don't know that I necessarily feel that way. I think that there's a lot of I think that this world has a lot of promise, you know? I think that there's a lot of places we could go, but it's going to require people getting over this idea of being at each other's throats constantly. And it's going to require some Americans coming together on the matters of peace. It's going to require some Americans deciding we want to engage in a peace process. We want to be a country that sets a good example again. And that, like, honestly, that setting a good example is going to have to involve more than just, you know, more than just, it's going to have to involve more than just making peace on the world stage, you know? Like, we need to set a better example at home and abroad. We need to fix the fucking problems that beset America. And we need to, I don't know, we need to really get serious about the matter of world peace. Because, like, as lofty a dream as it may be seen by some people, I genuinely believe that it is an achievable goal. I genuinely believe it's something that we could do with concerted effort. We're a country that does that. If you don't like it, move. That's not what Americans are supposed to do. These colors don't run. We fight. Americans are not supposed to just leave. Like, do you realize you sound like a British royalist right now? You don't like it? Then leave. Sounds like something a king would say. Sounds like something one of the king's men would say. Donald Trump is not my king. What the fuck are you talking about? Your dumb ass, idiot. I'm literally talking about you. You sound like a British royalist when you say shit like, don't like it, then just leave. That's what I got the vote for, bitch. That's the fucking whole point of voting, is to affect change in our country. Real Americans don't talk shit about their country? That's just bogus. That's just bogus. Donald Trump talked all kinds of shit about America when he wasn't the president. Donald Trump was saying America, you realize that there's shade being thrown at America every time someone says make America great again? You realize that's them admitting that America's not great right now? Then they're Americans? Exactly. I support it because I want to be able to berate baristas who are rude to me. Basically, yeah. How much do you think that actually plays into people's politics? Because I'm of the opinion that probably plays way more heavily into it than people want to admit. Oh, there's a little frog over there. That's kind of cool. I think that's a frog. Oh, they're gone. Yeah, had no fucking response. No response whatsoever. Just wants to keep talking shit. Just wants to keep talking shit. Genuinely doesn't see the hypocrisy in their own arguments. Genuinely refuses to see the fucking hypocrisy in saying some shit like, real Americans don't talk shit about their country. And then turning around and talking about how America's just full of all these people that they hate. People talk constant shit on America. Left, right, and center. The only time somebody gets mad about it is when they don't have a good argument for the fucking criticisms that other person is making. That is what caused that response you guys just saw right then. That response you just saw right then owes its entire existence to the fact that that person did not have a better argument for any of the criticisms I was making than, you shouldn't even make these criticisms. You're just wrong. You're wrong for even making the criticisms. I'm not going to address the criticisms in any way. I'm not going to say you're right or wrong about the particulars of anything. I'm just going to say it's wrong for you to even say anything negative about America. Well, fuck you. You sound like a British royalist. You sound like one of the king's men, you know? You sound like somebody who should be wearing a red coat with big buttons on it and a big poofy hat. I'm sorry. You sound like somebody who would be saying, "Step away from the king's god!" You know? Like, that is not an ideal image to project, my friend, especially if you're an American, bro. Part of our national pride is supposed to be wrapped up in our ability to criticize this fucking place, you know? I know it is for me. I know I think that's one of the coolest things about America, you know? Criticism allows us to improve the condition. That's the way I look at it. The way I look at it is it's like recovering from an addiction. The first step to recovering from a problem is admitting that you have the problem. I'm worried about how this conflict will affect will affect the combat vets that are now that are new families. Not every soldier can bounce back. Yeah, I mean, I worry about how it's going to affect vets that have returned home recently, who might get called back into service. I'm worried for current vets that are 100% going to be moved into positions that will enable them to attack Iran remotely or to attack Iran directly. I'm worried about the people who are going to come home in a few years, bruised, broken, and some of them in boxes. I'm worried about every single human life that's going to be touched by this fucking conflict. Because every time America does this, every time Israel does this, every time Iran does this, there are millions of people who die and who are injured and who are scarred for life. Families that dissolve in the wake of it. Some that are just wiped out as a whole, writ large, all at once. People's fucking lives become so cheap during wartime. So ridiculously cheap. Fox News is referring to the exiled Crown Prince of Iran as His Royal Highness. The exiled Crown Prince, dude? Wait a minute. Oh my god, wait a fucking minute. You're not telling me. No. No fucking way. Oh no. Pig mercy. Tell me I'm wrong. Please. You're telling... Because what I'm hearing is that Shah Reza Pahlavi had a son. Or something. That's what I'm hearing. What I'm hearing is that the Shah's family got out of Iran when the Shah did. And that the Shah had family that survived. That's what their being a crown prince of Iran means. Because the Shah's been deposed since 79. So what you're telling me is that the Shah had a kid. Or had a sister or a brother that had a kid. And I gotta tell you, if that's the fucking case, be ready, y'all. Be ready for the new Shah of Iran. You know, be ready for the next Reza Pahlavi. If that's fucking true, God, I hope, for the sake of the people of Iran, I hope that's not true. I hope that that fucking tyrant's entire family left without leaving an heir. I just read it. Apparently, I don't listen to Fox News and I'm no expert, but you can look into it yourself. Yeah, I know. But I'm telling you, if the Shah left family living, if the Shah has descendants and shit that are still living, to hear about the Americans helping to reinstall the Shah. If this conflict in Iran continues and we do manage to topple the Ayatollah, which we will probably do, because the Ayatollah has been a thorn on our side literally since 1979. Since the regime took power, and, well, not really since the regime took power, but ever since Jimmy Carter let the Shah of Iran come here for quote-unquote medical treatment, the Ayatollah has been a fucking thorn on our side. Whichever Ayatollah happens to be reigning at that time. Both of the Ayatollahs so far have been pretty opposed to American interests. And America doesn't like that. We don't like having countries in the Middle East that aren't baseline friendly with us. And so I expect it's not very long before we see some kind of regime change happen in Iran. I'm sniffing it, dude. Does anybody else smell it? I smell regime change. Yep, smells like regime change. I worry about the perfect failure in response and responsive regarding education during and post-COVID that left a generation of illiterate war fodder. Oh my God, yeah. I mean, yeah, think about that, right? How many high schoolers would have started their freshman year the same year that COVID began, right? That's fucking crazy to think about. You realize that somebody who would have started their high school career the year COVID began is eligible for war service starting this year? Somebody like that's crazy to think about. So the most illiterate generation that America has produced in fucking 50 years is about to get recruited the fuck out of. There's something happening here, and what it is ain't exactly clear. Random side note to make it feel a bit better. If you roll your own stuff, I recommend adding a bit of muslin or mullein for just a little bit of respiratory health benefits. Ooh, yeah, that's good advice actually. And yes, mullein does add a nice quality to smokes. I've had some smoke. I haven't done it myself, even though my family grows mullein, but I've had it in other people's smokes, and it is definitely a good addition to it. You can do that with lavender, I believe, as well. Although I don't know if it confers the same respiratory health benefits. Well, anyway. Do you usually stream during this time? I wouldn't say usually, no. I would say normally I actually stream a little bit earlier or a little bit later. I would say my normal stream time lately has been like 11 p.m. But, you know, I've been wanting to do a stream earlier in the day for like a couple of weeks now. Because normally, yes, I would stream during the morning hours. And then I would stream again at night. But lately it's been so fucking hot and mud and shit that it's just been undesirable to want to be out here when the sun is out, honestly. When the sun is like super out. It's okay once it dips down behind the trees. Like we've got a decent amount of tree cover on both sides of us, so if the sun hasn't come over the trees yet, or it hasn't or if it's gone back behind the trees, then it's okay. It's pretty livable out here. But if it's not, dude, it is just fucking ridiculously hot. I mean, it's nighttime right now. And I'm still fanning myself with a fan because it's just kind of fucking hot out here. Still, right now. Apparently, UKPM's response to all this is 2003 all over again. Well, duh. Duh. The British are the steadfast allies of America, and we believe our expertise can help. Yep. Of course it is. I'm telling you guys, this is WMDs all over again. I've been saying it all stream, and I'll repeat it again. This is Saddam Hussein has WMDs all over again. And the investigators who come in the aftermath of this will find the same thing out about Iran that the investigators found out about fucking Afghanistan. Not Afghanistan, but Iraq. They'll find out the exact same fucking thing, which is that no sign of WMDs was present, that Fordo was a facility that was designed to create nuclear material for export or something. And they'll find out that these other sites that have been talked about so much were making it for medical purposes or making it for a different kind of energy purpose that Iran wasn't talking about very much because they were on the cusp of making some kind of breakthrough in thorium generation or something like that. And none of shit's gonna matter because we will have deposed the Ayatollah and installed the fucking Shah's now super American family as the leadership in Iran again. Yay! I hope you guys are ready for that, by the way. I've been saying it once again all stream. If the Shah left family, which is what I was hearing earlier, that there's somebody right now like the Crown Prince of Iran, which I didn't think there would still be one because I've never heard about the fucking Crown Prince of Iran, so I just assumed that the Iranian royal family didn't really exist anymore. That maybe the Shah left without an heir, so to speak. But I'm hearing that that's wrong and that there apparently is some member of the Shah's family left breathing. And if that's the case, that now very American or very European motherfucker will be installed as the leader of Iran. And their fucking progress towards nuclear power will be, maybe it'll be preserved, but I seriously doubt it if there's any of it left after a big fucking war program. You also have to keep in mind that we're talking about a fucking country full of a culture that believes that you can go to heaven for killing yourself. I'm not even trying to be hateful towards Muslims. I know not every Muslim believes in, the relationship between heaven and martyrdom. Okay, I understand that it's not every Muslim, but when it comes to fundamentalist Muslims, there is a very common belief amongst them that you can guarantee your spot in heaven by killing yourself and by destroying yourself and your work as an extension of that, that can be a form of martyrdom, right? Holy martyrdom. And that fact alone makes it kind of fucking hard for me to imagine Iran giving up like the way that some other countries might give up, right? What I'm saying is that I think if Iran does give up its position, if Iran does decide to oust the Ayatollah or whatever, I think that a lot of the fundamentalists who are under his sway and in the firm grips of those belief systems, I think that there's a good chance a lot of them just blow themselves up with their work. And if that happens, dude, who the fuck knows how much research could be lost? And this is something we'd be thinking about a lot if it was some fucking if it was some Western country or some white country, a lot of fucking history that white people care about. Not to sound like an SJW, care a lot about, but because it's a bunch of fucking Muslims, because it's a bunch of fucking Arabs and Persians, we don't give a shit about it. Because it's a bunch of a couple of racial groups that we don't give a single fuck or a shit about. We actually have a lot of active prejudices towards, because it's people from those groups. We aren't worried about all the history that this could destroy. And you realize that the oldest civilization on the planet has its roots in Iran. If I'm not mistaken, somebody can correct me if I'm wrong about that. But does not Iran contain the oldest fucking civilization? Is Iran not the longest continuously occupied space on the globe as far as we know? It's almost like Common Core and No Child Left Behind were meant to create a generation of brain-dead bigots that want to kill anyone that isn't like them. Oh, well, yeah, not just that, but like Percy has said, from factory workers too. And like George Carlin said, they want people that are just smart enough to do the paperwork and run the machines, and just dumb enough to accept the higher working hours, the end of overtime pay, the higher taxes, and the pension, the vanishing pension that disappears completely the moment you go to collect it, right? It's the goal of the American education system, and it has been since the 90s. It's literally one of these things we look at as such a boogeyman nowadays because it's gotten so much worse in the last 20 years in a lot of places. But it's something that's been a boogeyman since the fucking 90s. It's something that's probably been a boogeyman since the 80s. You kind of have to go back to somebody who was educated in the 70s to see somebody who experienced like a really, really good education system. It was okay in the 80s and 90s, and it was starting to get pretty bad by the end of the 90s. And by the early 2000s, it just started to become a completely secondary concern of society, when in reality, education might be one of the most important concerns that a society can possibly have. We call on Iran to return to the negotiating table and reach a solution to end this crisis. It is crazy work, dude. This isn't going to work. This is not going to fucking work. You are not going to convince the Iranians to come to a table that requires them to give up their booty holes. This is not a people that is going to give you their booty holes. I'm sorry. This is just not this is not the country that's gonna do it. You know, there are plenty of countries on this great big planet that might be willing to take some fucking concessions for America to leave them the fuck alone. America is not gonna fucking be able to strike a deal with a country that is fucking unwilling to give up more than it wants to give up. America likes to be the fucking negotiator in situations like that. America likes to set its own terms. Not just Trump. Yeah, sure, this is something that Trump is being really fucking loud about, but this is something that Biden would pursue the exact same fucking way. Something that Kamala would pursue the exact same fucking way, which is to be violent and to build the pressure and to make it as severe as possible, so that the country on the other side of the table decides just sign whatever agreement they throw at us. Just sign whatever. America doesn't like to negotiate. We like to order terms and expect them to be followed. And as long as that's the case, we are not going to be able to come to a peaceful agreement with Iran. As long as that's the case, as long as that's the approach we're taking with it, we might as well give up on the prospect entirely and just set about the work that I'm sure is currently ongoing, because I think we have taken this path, y'all. Set about the work of restoring the Shah to power, because otherwise we're talking about just fighting an endless war of attrition that never ends and never dies. So, fuck it. If that's how it's going to be, just fucking go ahead and take the country over like I know, or at least like I'm pretty sure America is planning on doing anyway. If you're not actually going to come to the fucking negotiating table. I know it's easy to turn the actors into WMDs, but goddamn, bro. Well, not only that, Perseus, yeah, sure, it's easy to do that, and you can, what's the word I'm looking for? You can obviously refine just regular old uranium into a form that is acceptable for use in WMDs, you know, that can be used for that purpose. But there are other countries that make WMDs on the national level. Like a nation can trade in nuclear material. Just because we can't doesn't mean nobody is, you know? And I think that there's a good chance that Iran actually is serious about their commitment to not proliferate nuclear weapons. I think that there's a good chance that there are two motivations behind their desire to up their production of uranium. Number one, they want countries like the United States to think they do actually already have a nuke. Now, I think the plan backfired because, you know, the inspections were clearly proving that Iran does not have a nuke yet and is nowhere that last week they were saying Iran is nowhere close to having a nuke. Now the U.S. intelligence community is saying, no, they're about to have one, under a bunch of pressure from the White House. So how the fuck do you believe that, you know? But most of the independent agencies and shit were also saying that there are no WMDs in fucking Iran. There's no sign of them developing nuclear weapons with this material. So I think that they wanted countries to believe they already had one, and that they were actually really close if they didn't have one already. And I think it backfired. And I think that they wanted to put themselves in the position of being able to export nuclear material, because Iran is located in an area that is uniquely poised to be able to manufacture nuclear fucking material that would be useful for both WMDs and for all kinds of other purposes, right? The rare earths and shit that are found in the Middle East and in Asia in general, and in Africa, which, I mean, Iran has a land connection to both of these places, unlike, you know, the Americans and Canadians, etc. Iran has direct land access to these places through roads and shared cooperation and shit, and they're also just much closer to the sources of all this material. And I'm sure that if Iran is doing this much nuclear shit, they've probably got uranium mines in Iran. They probably got production facilities in Iran for uranium. So it's just like, what are we doing over there? It seems to me like we're getting ready to take over a country for its mineral wealth again. Part of the America problem is that we never de-escalate the past issues. All the past presidents were too much of a prissy baby to do something about it. I think you're right and you're wrong, right? I think there are some things we managed to de-escalate in the sense that I think that the American government, I won't say we, because I'm not a part of the American government, but I think there are things that the American government tries and sometimes succeeds at getting the people to not really pay attention to. I think that there are definitely things that the American government succeeds in doing that with. But when it comes to actually de-escalating these issues, yeah, I think the government is pretty fucking inept. And I think it's purposefully so, by the way. I think the U.S. government likes the fact that MAGAs and liberals don't get along. I think the United States government likes the fact that there's a KKK out there. Not just for their FBI to hunt, not just for the fact that some of their fucking officers are involved in it, but also for the fact that it breeds domestic discontent. And the easiest population to control is a population that's paranoid, scared, afraid of their every move, afraid of their shadows, afraid of their neighbor's shadows, afraid of their neighbor's kids. That's the kind of fucking society you want. If you're a government official that's hell-bent on an easy fucking administration, hell-bent on an easy go of things, that's what you want, man. That's the gold mine. So, of course, we don't de-escalate these issues permanently. We do half measures until we arrive at something that's a little more fair than what we used to be at, that gets people to shut up about it for long enough for the business of America to resume. But the issue remains so that it can be a political football between human beings forever and ever. Yeah, culturally apocalyptic faiths also fixate on self-canonization. We are just nuclear now. Also, all of those fell out of style post-apocalyptic games spawned a romanticization of survival. Yeah, no, for sure. Mesopotamian civilization began with Zagros farmers associated with the Iranian Neolithic. So there's some truth to what you said? Thank you. Thank you for fact-checking me. I appreciate that. Yeah, that's what I was thinking. I was thinking that Iran contained one of the oldest civilizations on the planet, if not the oldest. So, humans have been proven to have occupied Iran longer than we know any fucking group of modern humans occupied any other area. So there have been people in Iran for fucking thousands of years. The monarchy in Iran that was only abolished in 1979 was the longest running monarchy in history. Literally, you can go look it up. The Persian monarchy that was abolished in 79 was the longest running monarchy in human history. Not another even comes close to the 2,800-year-long reign of the Shahs of Iran. I wish governments were less corrupt. As does every citizen, my friend. As does every citizen. I feel like I sound like a superhero when I say it like that, but you know what I mean. Yes, everybody wishes that their countries were less corrupt. Everybody wishes that their governments were less corrupt. I think it's just a natural feature of humanity to want that, but one of the bad things about power is that power corrupts, and absolute power corrupts absolutely. So having a little bit of power places you in a position where you've got domination over other people, and human beings being the, you have to remember, we're only 250,000 years max removed from being fucking jungle apes, from being effectively more jungle ape than human, If you really want to trace us back to our fucking shared ancestor with the chimpanzees, you're talking 3 million years, but that's still a blink in the eye of evolution. So we're talking about a species that is very, very, very briefly removed from just being a bunch of fucking apes sitting around in prehistoric forests eating rotten logs, as Carlin once said. And you take that species, right, and you give it this big civilization and shit. And one of the possibilities in that civilization is that you end up in a position where you can put your luxury and comfort above that of other people. How long do you think it takes before you decide that your luxury is more important than other people? At least on some level. How long do you think it would take? Because I have found, even in like my personal life and just like being a human being operating in everyday life, that there are some people, there genuinely are some people who can, who have like a servant's heart and genuinely like helping people out and genuinely like being there for other people and everything. And some people who act selflessly in that way. But most people, not most maybe, but a significant margin of people, more people than not, will occasionally, at the very least, use a situation wherein they are at an advantage that the other person doesn't know about or can't do anything about. They will use that advantage to their advantage. They will use that advantage in furtherance of their own interests, right? That is a fucking that is a tendency amongst human beings that I've noticed in probably like 5 out of 10 people, at least 6 out of 10 maybe. And so it's something to be considered, you know. I wish we all played and drew together. Stay well, Phoebe. Love the wisdom shared. Stay comfy. Well, thank you. I appreciate that. Yeah, we're new here. Yeah, for sure. I appreciate you guys stopping by the stream and everything. I'm probably about to get off here, but yeah, it was super cool. Thank you guys for hanging out, and thank you for all the fun conversation, and thank you to the people who super chatted, and yeah, y'all have a banging night.